a huge role that they didn't have the Storm talent. So game one already absolutely amazing.
Lots of things to learn in game number one. If you have the chance, make sure to check out the VODs and continue to learn from these teams. And you also might be wondering why these teams look a little different. We've had some roster changes after BlizzCon that were pretty aggressive. We've got a few to update you on. Here is the roster changes for Dignitas. Wubby and Poik do join the team. Bakery has retired. We miss him, James Baker. And then Mene, of course, moved over to Fnatic. And you'll get to see him play on the new roster in our next game that will be happening later on. But let's get ready for game number 2. And I hope the action continues because game number 1 was a treat. Which battleground are we going to? It's going to be Dragonshire, as Dignitas will have the choice. Tricked Esports elects to go ahead and take first pick.
Yep, Braxis also banned by Tricked. I'm still updating that here a little bit.
Gotta keep those stat sheets up.
Yeah, exactly. So, Dragonshire. This is a cool thing about our last day, that we have the final 2 teams that we haven't seen yet perform here. Dragonshire is another map where globals can play a huge role. We saw the Haka banned out on the last map. It was an attempt of Trick to make sure that they are the ones who hold the global here. But overall, even though Maka performed well on the hero, the global aspect was not quite utilized to an extent where it really helped them. On this map, it could be really different. But I like the new Trick. I really like it. They said they put in way more work than they ever did before, that they changed their mindset a little bit, that it's still for them being a group of friends enjoying the game together, but that they also are going to be a lot more try-hard in this phase. And it already shows. That was an impressive game against Dignitas. Dignitas still winning it, looking as fantastic as everybody expected. But in the early game, Trick dominated the show, and that's something where I want to see if they can do that again on map number 2, map number 3, or if that was just something where they came out swinging and Dignitas didn't quite respect them enough.
Exactly. I need to see that fire that we saw in game number 1 come out in game number 2. Because again, we talked about it in the first matchup. Whenever Tricked Esports got behind in 2017, that fire just seemed to get a little bit less fiery. It became more embers, and they kind of just played the game out. Going into game number 2, if they show fire right away, I am convinced about what they are talking about, how they have changed themselves as a team, and how they're ready to do well here in HGC. Here we go, Dragonshire. Let's find out what's going to be banned here. Dahaka is a wonderful ban, but we've been seeing that after first. We'll see if that's going to be taken away. Because remember, Wubby, he plays a pretty mean Dahaka, especially on this battleground.
Yeah, Abathur and Genji have been the 2 priority bans for most of the teams, and I see very little reason to change that. Abathur overall is just a hero that most of the European teams seem to be really afraid of. He doesn't make it into a lot of the matches. We've only seen him perform once, as we mentioned before, which incidentally was on Dragonshire. But again, he's banned out, and that's also a ban that we've seen from Trick before. So they are very consistent in the way that they ban Abathur. They banned him the last series where they played nearly in every single game, and they now also ban him again after they already banned him on the first map. Dignitas response, Genji is being banned out, and that was, again, to be expected. His ban, like, he sits at plus 80% bans at this point.
So they get the Hanzo. We'll see later on if they're going to grab the Ethereal on this battleground. Maybe Team Dignitas may have some plans to kind of prevent that from occurring.
Also, I want to see if ETC is going to be played a bit more, because ETC did not make an appearance on the last map, and overall he's looking fantastic. In North America, actually, more so than anywhere else. In North America, ETC is currently sitting at 11 wins and a single loss, whereas in Europe, he doesn't have quite such a stellar win rate, but he is still the top tank together with Arthurs, but both of them did not make an appearance on Infernal Shrines, which comes back a bit to the teams. And talking about teams, and also their priorities, Trace and Malfurion, we've seen that combo several times now. We've seen it by Team Liquid twice, we've seen it on the last map, played by Dignitas, and Dignitas prioritizes the 2 of them so highly that it's their first rotation on Dragonshire now as well.
I am curious, you brought up the ETC, and the more I think about it, are these the teams that we'll get ETC from? I feel like it'll be sporadic, if anything. Rimmer seems to enjoy his tier a little bit more. JPL, you think about him, and he actually can run a really good ETC, don't get me wrong, but he seems to enjoy running Murden, especially on this battleground, or even the Nubrak, more often than not.
I would be shocked if we don't see any ETC whatsoever. I feel you're correct that Fnatic, for example, where Breeze is known for his ETC play, is more so a team where ETC is going to play a bigger role than for Dignitas. But I would still expect to see
them at least try it.
Yeah, them at least try it. Gul'dan and Tyrael. So again, the high priority on Tyrael for Tricked, and then Gul'dan as well. Now Gul'dan is the best mage in Europe at this point. hands down. Li Ming currently is sitting at a 50% win ratio. She has 4 wins, 4 losses. Gul'dan, on the other hand, he's currently doing exceptionally well and is by far the best mage. So we've seen him mostly on smaller maps where Wave Clear is really important. Infernal Shrines is one of his outstanding maps, and we also have him, for example, on Tomb. But so far he has 5 wins, 2 losses. That leaves him with a 71% win ratio here. Tricked has always favored the hero a lot, so they just fall back into that routine as well. And with the high priority that Tricked has also on Malthael, we talked about that in the previous game, Dignitas even goes so far as to ban out Malthael on the second rotation.
Keep him out of the mix here. And this is the second time that we get to see Crosby on the Gul'dan, the self-proclaimed best Gul'dan in Europe. And so far, he has really shown up. We saw it one time the other day on Friday, and they dominated that matchup. He just knows how to land the perfect damage outliers, and then, of course, landing the Horrifies. ETC has been banned out, so at least he's being in the ban phase for you, so your stats can continue to go up on those numbers, and Team Dignitas will now elect to move into what warrior they would like later on. I wouldn't mind seeing the Muradin from JPL in this battleground, but they have been favoring a new bracket we saw last game.
Yeah, also Dehaka is another hero that we have not seen picked or banned yet, so the global aspect on Dragonshire is always super important, and Europe is known for their Dehaka play. I mean, we've been talking at some point about Korea, for example, Rich in particular, talking about why would you ever pick Dehaka? You have Illidan, he's way better. That was, of course, in the previous patch, but even at that time when Korea made that statement and players like Rich could honestly not figure out why Dehaka, Europe just so completely believed in his power, up to a point where even Rich was convinced and said, okay, I get it now why, and then Korea started to pick up Dehaka a lot more. So that global play was something that Europe always excelled at, so I would expect something along those lines to show up in the draft here as well, either form of the globals, but for now we have Junkrat and the Muradin that you pointed out, JPL's favorite.
The Muradin coming in. JPL loves this. He was actually the first player that I've seen in competitive play that started jumping over the walls in the bottom lane and the top lane to go for the aggressive plays, the Dwarf Toss into a big Storm Bolt, and landing them a lot of the time. He was very successful with it, and it's become more of a trend, obviously, now in Europe in the last few months. But
I know at least one player that has issues with that statement.
I mean, it was the first one that I saw. I'm just saying. I just loved it from JPL.
Don't you know?
Great.
Nomi played Muradin before he was cool.
Oh, did they? Well, there we go. I apologize if I've offended anybody with that statement. But yes, watch for JPL to go in for the fights. He wants to jump in and start those initiations. And now the Junkrat coming in. We'll be seeing a little bit more Junkrat play coming in here in HGC. We saw it with ADRD yesterday, which he used it brilliantly to stop knife camp pushes. And then we also saw it in North America with Fan for the first time actually showing how you can use it with a Punisher jumping in and knocking a target into you.
Here we have, by the way, now Dehaka, as we mentioned before. I was a bit surprised that he didn't even get a higher priority. I actually expected him to be picked up on the side of Dignitas in their second rotation, but they opted for Junkrat and Muradin instead. So for me, that was already a really sure sign that they are absolutely okay with Dehaka being picked away. And that leaves us with the question what we're now going to see from Ubi again up at that top lane. So are we going to see him with Leoric? Is it going to be a Sonya? Will we have a completely different approach for him right now? Because I like what Tricked is currently showing. The draft overall has a pretty solid setup. Dehaka now for that solo lane again is giving them the global edge over their opponent, at least up to that last pick that we now are going to see from Dignitas.
Just looking at it, it feels more of a Leo game with it being Wubby. Also, they seem to really pride that level 20 silence. They love pulling that off in the late game, and you can get the late game on Dragonshire pretty often.
Against Tyrael, it's also so fantastic because there's a lot of heroes that can really jump out of these entombs. But once that you have the 20, it makes it so much harder to really deal with it.
He has decided upon the Sonya, though. Wanting to move in, be aggressive against that Dehaka. And with the Muradin being able to jump in, they can afford to be aggressive on that top lane if we have the rotations from JPL.
Yeah. I like what we have from both of the teams right now. The Junkrat is always one of these factors where I'm not quite sure how they're going to deal with that. The interesting part for me is that now Tracer has a few more small problems. I was actually impressed how well Trick dealt with Tracer on the first map, considering the lack of proper stuns that we talked about outside of heroic abilities. Now in this setup, they are still not running any massive CC tanks like ETC that can just simply slide through and try to just bully Tracer a little bit more in these situations. But we have now Isolation, we have a Tongue, we have a Horrify that can be used as well. So we have a few more tools against Tracer, which is going to make Poik's life a little bit more difficult. But overall, the style that Trick chose is very interesting this season so far. Going away from what all the other teams do that opt for Arthurs at the beginning, that go straight into an ETC, for example, that go for these really beefy, high hit point, heavy CC tanks, and instead they prioritize Tyrael over and over again, say the sanctification, the shields, the mobility. That's really the assets that we need in our own style to be successful. And the aggression in the early game on Infernal Shrines proved them right.
Well, we'll see if it'll prove him right again, too, in game number 2 as we move into Dragonshire. Poik on the Tracer, and we'll have Rimmer once again on his Tyrael.
And the game starting up as we see Dignitas in the lead, but now on map number 2, Dragonshire. Tricked is going to try and change that. Make on Gul'dan this time as Tricked starts to the left. We have Crosby on Hanzo, Alex the Pro G on Dehaka, Ramabol on Tyrael, and Gran Paquete on Lucio.
On the right side in the red, Dignitas. We're going to be having them popping in here. We're going to have Poik. He's going to be showing off the Tracer. JPL back on the Muradin. Zelia playing Malfurion. Wubby on Sonya. And Snitch is going to be Junkrat.
This is definitely going to be... For me, this is interesting for one specific reason. On the first map, I really wanted to see, okay, how do the two teams measure up against each other? How well can Trick perform against Dignitas? And to be quite frank, they exceeded my expectations. They could have won that game with a bit of better experience, soaking, trying to stay a little bit far closer to Dignitas. But right now, early aggression already from Tricked Esports, and that's what I want to see. Are they going to be as aggressive again as they were on the first map? Was the first map a bit of a fluke where Dignitas was surprised by Tricked, or is Tricked just really on the level where they can completely go eye to eye with Dignitas?
For me, I just love how JPL gets engaged upon, and immediately the rest of Dignitas gets in a position to put damage on somebody. Poik blinked in right away and got on top of Lucio, made him start backing away from the fight, making sure that he was in a situation where he could boop away from anyone. Junkrat trying to look at Gul'dan, putting damage on them. Dignitas just seems to have an answer for every situation that may occur.
Yeah, and I really like the way that both of the teams are playing here. Very aggressive Heroes of the Storm. That's exactly what we want to see. Once again, the roots coming down. Zelia performed incredibly well on map number 1. And with the 1-minute camp spawning, we have Wubby immediately focusing his attention on the night camp here, trying to get that. Whereas most of the teams opt for the Siege Giants first, and that is something that we're seeing from Tricked now as well. They go for the Siege Giants at the bottom left, trying to take those, but the top lane, Dehaka, will have to deal with Sonya's camp very soon.
I just love the teamwork. Malfurion and Tracer come top, they push her in the Dehaka. Usually in 2v1, Dehaka's not going to do too much. He can sit there and just kind of soak the experience and work on getting essence, but them going up there allows for a defense against an invade. They actually can't invade because Dehaka can't leave that lane. So they get that night camp, and now Sony can run to the top here. And Dignitas is just taking what is normal so far in Dragonshire, which is the night or the giant camp that you just mentioned, and they're just offsetting the entire map by putting pressure with the night camp.
Dignitas is really trying to make this a massive push. They have a tri-lane now at the top, so they're really attempting to use the aura of the night as much as they can, and Alex will not be able to deal with that. The interesting part to me is that Dignitas, in the meantime, is now pressured bot lane, so Trick just says, we're not reacting to this, we're simply counter-pushing. We're going now down to the bot lane, where Snitch is very much alone attempting to defend. We have a Siege Giant camp, so let's push at the bot lane and see what we can do there, and try to outpush our opponent instead.
And Snitch can do the maneuver we saw from ADRD yesterday, bring the Giants straight into the fort. The grenades that he has naturally clears out the minion wave, so we can hold this for a little bit here, and Sonya is now starting to put damage on the fort on the top side. The question is, who can win the trade? Dignitas feinted like they wanted to bring some aggression down the middle with Tracer, but they actually beeline back up onto Dehaka, and they're pushing him with the minion waves.
Yeah, a bit of aggression against Make here, but it's nothing that's really going to pressure him too much, and Dignitas is winning this pretty handily. And you could really tell that Tricked at some point started to realize, oh, the channel goes through. Okay, so there's a few things happening here. Tricked, first of all, was thinking, guys, let's just counter push. Let's not defend, let's push at the bot lane. But with the aura and also Sonya being attempted by, helped out by those knights, Tricked just realized, hey, we are going to lose this pretty heavily if we don't rotate. So all of a sudden, they just half-assed the move. They decided to, after they pushed through the wall, they moved to the top to defend, still lost the fort. In the meantime, they realized, well, now we also gave up control over the bottom shrine, so that has been taken, and then they were too slow to send someone into the mid lane and disrupt the Dragon Knight channel. So all of a sudden, they lost the top fort, They lost the first objective, and they find themselves an entire level behind. That is not really the opening they were hoping for, and it all comes down to them misreading the situation and Dignitas surprising them a bit with that night camp push with 3 heroes at the top lane.
And it's hurting them heavily here. And also it shows why Sonya was picked up as that 5th pick instead of Leo that we were talking about. Sonya provides that early game aggressiveness. The amount of bulliness goes up with that Sonya. You're able to just move forward and completely take out that forward.
Yet, not only that, Sonya took the camp.
By herself.
Leo, exactly. Leo just can't do that in the same way. So Sonya is in a position where she can just solo the camp quite easily and then prepare for that push. And as you said, they split the map very differently at the start. They just held experience. They had the Malfurion Tracer combination at the top, while Sonya took the night camp, and then they tri-laned the top, whereas usually you see the solo laner there, which is exactly what Trick did. They had the Haka in that position, but Junkrat for Dignitas moved down to the bot lane to defend. So it was a really smart move, and Trick hadn't seen that yet. You could really tell. So they didn't quite know, well, how do we deal with this now? And then their reaction was a bit too slow, and now they got punished for it.
Now, with the fort being grabbed on the top side, not much more Dignitas can push in, and now they're just trying to sustain their lead that they already have, trying to get towards that level 10, occasionally coming to the middle, poke a little bit, try and get that fort a little bit lower, or maybe find an opportunity to get a pick. Trick's style of being a little bit more defensive is working out now, but it's going to hurt with that shrine activating relatively soon.
Yeah, I like that they're going for the camp now, but it was really telegraphed, and that's the problem I have with this move. They were visible at the wall, so they're apparently willing to take this fight. The Haka will probably have to burrow down for this, though, if they really want it. And yep, there we have the burrow, but what a fantastic move by... I mean, that was just absolutely great by Malfurion. Zelia, immediately when all of this happened, when he sees the Haka burrowing in, he immediately says like, okay, here's the route. Rema jumps in, everybody else is like, dude, you're on your own, we can't follow you. And he's like, well, I guess then I just die now. So Zelia, it looked a bit silly, but that was just Zelia being absolutely on point.
Zelia zoning out the rest of the team there with his brute. Giants now be able for grabbing as Dignitas has level 10. Junkrat dealt with the night camp already by itself. This is becoming a trend now. Every time you see a night camp, and there's a Junkrat on the opposing team, assume you're not going to get any value out of it. Giants being grabbed, but JPL taking a lot of damage. He's going to have to drop his avatar. Voigt goes in with the Pulse Bomb. Make takes some damage. A little bit of drain life, though, will help keep him alive with Grandpa Kit bringing in the heals.
I like the reaction from Make. Immediately once he saw the Pulse Bomb, he realized, okay, I have to go in again.
Drain somebody.
I need to try and drain something here. He barely survived even without it, and of course with Lucio also helping him out as much as he could. But that instinct is really something that I think is really, really cool. Instead of instinctively thinking you have to run away, immediately making the turnaround and say, the only thing that can keep me alive are my chances are better if I just turn around and try to get that quick drain life in.
Fight or flight. And we know Make is a fighter now. That's what that means. Dragon grab for Team Dignitas, and they are intending to fight the middle lane as they bring in the Dragon Knight. Sonya continues to dominate top lane. Another night camp for Dahaka to deal with, and he's going to be hating his life in that lane as the Dragon continues to pursue forward.
And all of what's just happening, that second objective here as well, is still a result of this early push at the top lane. Because of that push, the 10 hit so fast for Dignitas that Trick could not contest the second objective either. So with everything that happened, that's exactly what they need to do. But I love the rotation here over to Whoopi. Zelia is trying to help out right now. Whoopi actually dancing around a lot through the aura, but he still falls. He's trying to use the aura of the Knight for as long as he possibly could to mitigate the damage, but that was actually incredibly well done by Trick. Great rotation, thanks to Lucio as well. So at this point, Trick is now slowly going to try and stop the bleeding here, because everything that happened up to this moment was still thanks to that amazing opening from Dignitas, and right now Trick is finally in a position where he can say, okay guys, let's try to make sure that around the next objective we play around them a little bit more and hopefully get level 13 around the same time they do.
I'm chasing JPL around. He even dropped down a Dragon's Arrow. Maybe a little bit too advantageous on that one, trying to land Snitch behind a fort wall. Voigt comes in, trying to get some damage in, drops a Pulse Bomb, doesn't land on anyone, so he has to back away. And now we're going to have a fight around the Giants. Dahaka does have his burrow up, so he can come in and fight. Dignitas needs to be careful. They know it, and they back up. Yeah,
Trick wants to be aggressive now. They are saying, okay, we need to do something here. And, well, JPL connects to it, jumps in. Dahaka comes in now as well. Horrify already not there. Comes, Kai finally comes out. They're trying to get the kill against Junkrat, and they get it. The isolation was there, too. Remaballer gets killed by Junkrat, though, as he dies. And that's the trade-off with the 1-for-1. Make moving out. Crosby also a bit low. Whoopi again connecting with a spear against Dahaka. Alex on the run. gets the burrow, but he is going to fall here. Great move by Dignitas.
Yes. JPL and Wubby keeping that back line busy. Sonya taking a bit of a beating, but eventually it nets into a 2-for-1 trade in favor of Team Dignitas. Junkrat again with that trade value coming in. Get a little bit of damage on top of the kill there on the Tyrael. So now 4 in the middle gets picked up. Level 13 hits for Dignitas. And another Shrine is activating, and they are just controlling this map.
Yeah, they're controlling it quite nicely. And the last fight, it was actually Tricked already backing off. They thought that there was no invade through Dignitas, and then Mirrodin jumped in, and the timing was a bit unfortunate for them. But they're still in a spot where they will hit level 13. They should be able to fight for the Shrine, and they're chasing down Snitch, and Snitch is just dead. With Lucio there, as long as he doesn't have anything that can just boost him away, as long as he doesn't have the grenade there ready, he has just no chance. But the double Siege Giants at the bot lane, they are an issue, and that's when our rotation has to start once more. So, Tricked still reacting. Dignitas, as you said, they are currently pushing all the right buttons. They are making sure that they are the ones that force the rotations out of Tricked and always force them to react.
That's a fight there, though. Tricked Esports moved into their night camp as they thought Dignitas would be trying to invade, and they were correct. Dignitas had to back up without the aid of Junkrat, and this allows Dahaka to go ahead and deal the Giants on the bottom. Typically, he can't really control those too well, but since nobody is pressuring with that, he's able to take the damage and slowly pull those Giants underneath the turret range using that level 7 talent Feeding Frenzy. And now Dignitas is actually matched against an opponent that has the same talent level. We'll see if they get into a fight where Tricked Esports can take a lead.
Yeah, Rema wants to get the interrupt. Ah, nice. Horrify for Sonya. They are really investing resources now, but Lucio is in trouble. Gets attacked, yet survives as Poik was trying to go for the kill. Sanctification had to be used. Here comes the Hanzo ult, trying to go for this. And good route again by Celia, but the sound barrier is in. And here comes the attempt for an isolation, but Alex misses it. They're trying to go for Malf. The kill against Lucio and Tyrael in the meantime. Malf dies too, but it's still a 3-4-3. And now, with Gul'dan also dying, we are seeing Tricked losing more and more ground.
They're losing more and more ground, and the Shrine's already in favor of Dignitas. Crosby's low on health. Snitch is going for the kill, but it's just a bait here. He's going to jump away from the fight, and here comes JPL from the side. Crosby himself jumping over the wall. JPL's like, wait a minute, I have a jump too. Goes in for the Stormbolt, goes in for the attack, and the Dwarf gets the kill.
Dragonite also taken. Dignitas currently with 7 kills against 5. Early level 16 for them as well. And Tricked Esports, from the get-go, from the opening that we saw from their opponent, they were trying to come back into the game, and they had some really cool moves to try and make that happen. But then, once again, too much pressure against them in the fight in the middle, and now Dignitas moving through the bot lane, attempting to get the first keep of the game.
In the keep wall, working on it slowly here. Malfurion and Junkrat are not around, so Tracer and that Dragon needs to be slightly careful for the moment. But you're correct. The 16 to 15 talent allows them to push pretty aggressively here, and they should be trying to do their best to grab a keep with that talent advantage. Just a matter of whether or not they can. So far, the defense from Trick has been great. Gul'dan is clearing out the minions, making it much more difficult for the Dragon to move in.
For me, this is really funny to watch. Ever since the game started, Tricked was chasing Dignitas and trying to catch up, and they got really close a few times. If Tyrael didn't have to use the Sanctification to try and hold the turn-in spot when the kill against Sonya happened at the top, that would have gone really different. When Dahaka moved in and burrowed and missed the isolation against Malfurion, if he hits that, they don't have to chase and they can take the fight properly. So there's so many tiny things where if Tricked would just have landed this one ult, would have just been there 2 seconds earlier, this would be a completely different game. But as is, Dignitas forces mistakes out of them and capitalizes on it in a beautiful fashion. Dignitas gets another kill. Their opening was absolutely fantastic and put them from the beginning of the game into the driver's seat, and they just don't let go of that control, and it's beautiful to watch.
That's why we watch high-level play every weekend here, Friday through Sunday at twitch.tv/BlizzHeroes, because we get those moments of beauty. And speaking of beauty, Tyrael gets picked off in the middle, and Dignitas continues to force mistakes out of Tricked Esports. Tricked continues to stay in the game, though. Don't forget, they have yet to lose a keep. They don't have too much pressure coming their way, and now they're, again, on even talents against their opponent. They have another chance here to keep fighting and try to get their first dragon in the game.
Dignitas, in the meantime, they take camp after camp. They have currently Sonya and Tracer down at the bot lane. Malfurion already at the right side of the map, busy with the second camp. There's like sitting there. Lucio, actually, he's not gonna sneak in there. That would be a bit suicidal. Lucio alone can just face check all of these bushes. JPL is already waiting with the Stormbolt. but we have them in the middle now. So, big push at the bot lane, but there's also an opportunity for Trick to fight on even talents again. If Remabolov dies on the other hand, that would be a different story, but good move by him. But it shows again just that threat level that Poik poses to any opponent's team. He's all over the place, zipping in, zipping out, trying to drop a couple of pulse bombs. He's just doing a fantastic job.
I do like the synchronized pincer maneuver from Dignitas with the giant Night Camp on the bottom side, the Night Camp on the top. Based on how Trick reacts with their global, putting Dahaka in the bottom, they can decide to go for an evade on the top left, go for a fight with a 5v4, even if they're not going in for that level 20 talent, just because of where Dahaka is. Here they come in, forcing to engage, just trying to bait out some heroics, and they get some big ones here. Alex Saprogi on the side comes in for the flank, but he gets locked down.
Rema jumping over and trying to help him out here as well. So now all of a sudden Alex is low and Poik delivers the kill. The Horrify came out a bit too late. Another potential kill against Grand Paquette, and yep, they deliver. They get the double. Lucio down, and so is Dahaka. Gul'dan falls as well. Dignitas closing in on 20. They jump deep for Remaballer. Tyrael survives for now, but JPL goes in once again, hitting the rewind here, and Muradin falls. A bit too aggressive.
Oh,
and the rat is dead too.
Major mistake there, going for the flashy plays. Muradin jumping in, feeling a little bit cute there, and the cuteness does not pay off. Rimmer able to bait one kill and then a second as Junkrat gets hit by the keep. Dignitas is still fine though. They grab the keep on the bottom side, and if they can pull back and grab these shrines and grab a dragon, oh my gosh, this top lane just pushing in for a second keep. So they're all right, but for a second there, my heart skipped a beat.
JPL tried to be flashy with the rewind. He definitely did, and it looked good. But then Junkrat also dying. That was a bit unfortunate, but Tricked is still far behind. Not only is the keep at the top lane about to fall, they can end that whenever they want, but also there's another Dragon Knight on the map, and they still have 20. So Dignitas needs to stall a little bit for a couple more seconds until Muradin and Junkrat are back in the game. But once that's accomplished, they should be able to make that play for the last objective.
Tricked might try to come in here and force a kill. They have a couple more seconds before Dignitas does group up as 5. Now Farian pulls away. Tracer and Sonya are on the bottom. Done with the Dahaka. It's a little bit nerve-wracking, but here comes Muradin. Here comes Junkrat. Oh, it's going to be an arrow from across the map. It's going to be on Sonya. The isolation comes out, and Sonya is dead.
I don't even think that isolation was needed. A simple drag would have been enough there. But good job making sure that they get the kill here. Sonya moving back into that arrow. And that was a great ult from Hanzo here. Question is, can they get the Dragon Knight now? Muradin tries to interrupt, but they are moving away and give up the DK. So we have Tricked Esports with a Dragon Knight. 16, 17 minutes into the game, and that will also net them level 20.
If Tricked Esports is able to pull off the win, it's going to come back to that moment with Muradin jumping in the middle and Junkrat falling, and the big turnaround from Trick.
They are going to lose the top keep if they don't pay attention, though.
Yeah,
because there's a big wave building up, and they will definitely lose the keep if Dahaka does not go back. And currently it doesn't look like anybody is retreating. It really feels as if they feel we need to go through the bot lane, drop the keep with the Dragon Knight right now. But that top keep is going to fall eventually because the waves are pushing so hard against it.
Well, they are committed here. Maokai continues to poke with the Gul'dan with the Dragon Knight coming in with a few flame breaths. Poik goes forward, gets a pulse bomb kill. Hanzo falls. Grand Paquette is also low. And Tricked Esports, and their one push they were putting stock into, has been denied.
Yeah, Dahaka is also the one in the Dragon Knight, so he can't even move back. So they need to retreat here already since Hanzo has fallen. And that comes back to something we have mentioned before. The mobility against Hanzo, a hero with such a low hit point pool, is the biggest threat against him. So at this point, the Dragon Knight doesn't really do too much anymore for Trick, and Dignitas wants more. They want the kills here. So right now, Dahaka on the move back, dodges the Stormbolt and the Root. Great play, dodges the second Stormbolt as well. Great job by Alex. But now look at the top lane. Exactly what we talked about earlier. That keep, are they there in time?
Just in time.
Barely. Barely there. But that also means that Tracer, for example, or even Junkrat at any point can just move top and kill that thing.
We got a game on our hands. In 10 seconds, Hanzo will be back with a Dragon Zero, with play of the game too, so they can force a fight. Dignitas is grabbing the Giants, and they are attempting to get catapult pressure onto this core. Can they do much? Poik looking for some damage. Snitch will be the one to take the hit.
Yeah, that actually hurt, but it didn't kill him, and that's the important part. Alex was trying for the flank, hits the isolation on 2. Here's the Horrify. Oh, Alex surviving. Can they get the kills? Look
Drag.
at how low he is. The drag is in, but Avatar is being used, and this is the end of Gul'dan, and Tyrael falls too. Double kill as Dignitas goes in and tries to go for game.
Stormbolt should be the triple kill here on the Dahaka. There it is. Poik will get zapped there. Some damage coming out. Snitch going to be the one to do the damage to the core with the aid of the Giants. Only 2 members here to defend. It is Hanzo and Lucio. Can Team Overwatch handle the 4 players on the opposing team for Dignitas?
Well, I think they might need a brother here to make that happen, and they don't have them in the game. So at this point, Crosby isolated, and he goes down. This is going to be the end of it. Dignitas goes in for the core, and they are delivering. Game number 2, ending in favor of Team Dignitas as they take the 2-0 lead against Tricked Esports.
Dignitas with a bit of a speed bump there in the middle, and they lost a couple of members, and Trick for a second had some hope that they could bring the game back. But with a huge coordinated play from Poik to go in and grab that kill on Hanzo, they were able to finally move forward and grab the kill on the core. 2-0 so far for Dignitas, but Tricked, they're here.
Yeah.
They're here to play.
I mean, we talk a lot about Trick because from Dignitas we expect excellence, and that's exactly what we get. But I found 2 things here really impressive, and I talked about it during the game. The first thing is the opening that we saw from Dignitas was fantastic.
Killer.
That really won them the game. It cannot be underestimated how much of an impact that push with the Night Camp and the 3 heroes at the top lane, how much of an impact that had. Because it basically gave them the lead in position, thanks to the structures that they destroyed, and also an experience that they carried through 3 objectives. And that really set them apart the entire game. At the same time, you can also argue that Trick made a major mistake at the beginning when they didn't realize the danger in time, thought they could counter push, and then realized their mistake too late, so they suffered for it. But after that mistake, after the opening for Dignitas got more value than it should have, and Trick was late to react to it, Trick did a fantastic job trying to come back into the game. And there were several situations where 5 seconds, 3 seconds, 1 kill, 1 positional...
One isolation.
Could have, one ability that hits could have completely... I mean, not flipped the table in favor of Trick completely, but just like brought them back into the game. And that they, the entire time, were nipping at the heels of Dignitas, that was impressive. But overall, I mean, if you look at Dig, Poik, yes, a couple of his ults on Tracer didn't really hit home, but the way how he always went into the backline and confirmed the kill against Hanzo, put the pressure onto Gul'dan, made sure that both of the damage dealers never had the freedom to act there. It was just beautiful to watch. These guys played fantastic, and Dignitas is looking very strong, but so does Tricked.
Well, we got more beautiful Heroes of the Storm coming your way as we get ready for game number 3, and we'll catch it when we get right back.